Welcome to the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast. I am your host, Heidy De La Cruz, and I am on the mission to change the narrative of immigration, one immigrant story at a time. So, Gia.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants to tell the audience about yourself and your experience of coming from Cuba.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. By the way, you're the first one that that I see that it's interviewing me, something that it's meaningful to you and obviously to me.
Yes, especially because, I don't know if my audience knows the history a lot about Cuba, so I was going to ask you, about your life in Cuba, because you came when you were 10, right? Okay, so you remember.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so how was that?
Well, a 10-year-old in Cuba, it's very relatable to an 18-year-old person here, youngster, because of all the things that we exposed, the survivorship, so much that we're exposed that we need to, live. And that's what it is, living under communism. So, a lot of times you kind of are robbed of your childhood because of you here, and you see the parents and the people around talking about the government, the system, how people are so unhappy. So you tend to want to be curious about it. So definitely at a very young age, I knew that something was not correct where we were living, but that's all we knew. So being 10 years old, a lot of people think that I was just 10. I knew exactly what was going on.
So you had to grow up very, very quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, because of hardship and stuff. So what was like your typical day in Cuba?
A typical day in Cuba for me, definitely going to school in Cuba and communist countries. You do get, depending on, I went up to fifth grade over there. Yeah. So there's two type of schedules. So you can get the morning schedule for school or the afternoon. So depending on the year or my mom availability was, I could be in the morning or in the afternoon, which I did love the afternoon. So you go to school after 1. So the morning I was just grew up with my younger brother. So I think that's also what pushed me to mature so young. Yeah. So it will be, my mom every day help me here, help me there. We're 6 years apart. So at that time, I was probably 8 or 7. I was 6 when he was born. So that's everything I just took on that second task as being my mom helper. So I was always helping around her.
Are you the firstborn daughter?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Firstborn, everything.
Firstborn. Because I feel like as a firstborn daughter in the Hispanic community, like there's like this big like expectation and responsibility put on us.
Yes.
Like I feel like my sibling's second mother.
That's exactly how I label myself. Is like that second mom for my younger brother, which even though we're 6 years apart now, but back then, if mom wasn't there, I was the second person to cater to him, to make him feel comfortable, to fight and defend him.
And how many siblings?
Just one brother.
Just one brother? Okay, yeah. I actually asked a few, my Instagram followers for Hispanic community, like if you are the firstborn daughter in a Hispanic family, like do you feel like your sibling's second mother? And the majority have said yes. I was like, man, I'm so glad I'm not the only one who feels that way, because it's a lot to put on kids.
It's kind of unfair too, because it's two different upbringing, and I will always put it on my parents' face. I'm like, it's not fair, because they were so strict with me being the firstborn, and not with my brother. When my brother is what we say, a toda leche, just let him do. He's a little one. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So there was a standard that I felt that I needed to live up, not only to make my parents proud and be an obedient child, but also because I was the girl.
Yep. There's a double standard.
No sleeping over anybody's house. Not going out play with, boys.
Yep. Yes.
Just very strict upbringing.
Yeah. I mean, my dad, to my face, told me that it would be different if I was a boy.
Yeah.
I was like, what? That's not fair.
Yeah.
Not fair. Okay. So if you would share with us what events led you guys to move from Cuba to here, or like what was the decision, if you remember, when it was finally made?
Absolutely. My dad was in a really good position back in the island. You know, he used to run this gas station, and running the whole entire fuel, it's like basically owning the country because everybody will go to him. As you guys know, communist country, everything is plant. You can only have 20 pounds of rice if you're a nucleus of 4, blah, 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 blah. If you have a car, you can only have 20 liters a month. So being the manager of that, he did a lot of under the table businesses that make him get, you know, rich and empowered quickly. So he was stealing from the government.
Oh, no.
For a long time.
Oh, no.
His salary, just to put it in perspective, was like 160 pesos with dollars, where a doctor makes 200, right? But we had a 2-story house, we had Jeeps, we have motorcycles. So my dad quickly, they investigated him and they took him to jail. So in jail, my dad had an encounter with God, and that's when my family, you know, bring faith in the spirituality and their walk, and he had to let go of those, you know, wrong ways of making money. So there was a huge shift in our household, but my dad always has his connection, and he was a very well connected individual in our town, Guantánamo. But however, it doesn't matter how connected you are. For those that don't know about it, but in 1980, when the Soviet Union wall fell, you know, obviously Russia was the ones feeding Cuba the most, but you know, the Soviet Union was suffering. So Cuba went through a really hardship in 1989. So 93 was rough, to the point that people will have cash and there was no food, you know. So we call it at that time Plan Especial. It was a very tough moment, and no matter how much money you had, it's just everything was so unreachable. Like 1 pound of pork was like $100 or 100 pesos. Imagine somebody that makes 160 a month. So that's when my parents didn't see a way out, and they're like, we need to flee this.
And you had mentioned this was off when we were recording. You guys came in a Raft, right?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was traumatic, and it was very impactful. It's one of the main event in my life that marked me as an individual, as what I want from life, as how I portray life, and in everything in my career. So it definitely impacted me. The whole entire journey that we have to go through, survivorship, the whole entire thing was supposed to be an hour journey, and it took us 14, almost 15 hours journey.
Wow. That you are reminding me of this book that I just recently read, Solito. And it's about this 9-year-old boy from El Salvador, and he came. His parents were already here in the United States. Y lo mandaron a buscar. Just him.
Wow.
They paid, you know, the coyote, to take him, and he had to. Eventually, they had him pretend that he was a kid. Contra muchacha, with another lady who had her daughter, and then this other guy who was traveling by himself. So all 4 of them pretended to be a family. And the whole trip was supposed to take 2 weeks, and it took him 2 months.
Oh, God. Can you
at
imagine?
9 years old. So you came when you were 10 and he was 9. And so, like, at the end of the book, he mentions that in that time period, those 2 months, like, his family didn't know anything about him.
Wow.
Like, so he had his grandma in El Salvador, and then he had his parents here in the United States, and they didn't know anything about him for 2 months. Like, as a mother,
exactly the title, Solito,
exactly.
Wow.
So it's like, as a mother, like, I would have been going crazy.
I would have been crazy.
Yes.
I would have been in a mental health facility.
Man, okay. So back to your story. So how was it when you guys finally arrived? So you guys, your whole family came? Your mom, dad?
My immediate family, my dad, my mom, and my little brother. So it was just the 4 of us on that raft. But we were not the only one in the raft. There was 23 Christian family that were together. So when we got here to Miami, as the immigration process for every Cuban that come in a raft, it's there. But we were the only one out of those 23 that we didn't have no family here. Okay. So the process was way different for us, and the experience was another traumatic impact in our life.
I do want to ask, back in Cuba, was there talks, or did you hear as a 10-year-old or even younger, were there talks of like people making plans to leave? Because like,
absolutely,
yeah, because in Dominican Republic the joke is that everyone quiere su visa, right? So they're trying to find a way, any way to get here. So I just want to know like if it was the same.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that time that we left, it was illegal to leave the island. So a lot of people, if they were caught by the Cuban government, they'll go into jail. Yeah. So there was many families that they were caught. There was many families as well that they found the raft and nobody was in it, and they were saying se lo comieron los tiburones, the sharks ate them. Yeah. So it was very traumatic stories that you hear, and it was like a big cuco, like a big fear that will put on people so they don't leave the island. So absolutely, those stories were every day.
So you guys got here to Miami, and how did you feel arriving as a 10-year-old?
It was nervous as heck because being that we left Guantanamo, we went to Guantanamo Bay. So Guantanamo Bay, it's a military base by United States. So who captured us, it was the American safeguard on Americans' water. It was limited with Cuban water. So they rescued us and they took us to that military base that right now is where all the terrorists are. In 93, however, we were the first big group kids that was on that whole entire base. However, you have to go through a process. You have to be processed because they want to make sure that there's no spy, any communist party coming to United States. So we were there for 11 days as we were processed. Those 11 days were really cool. We were talking to the Americans, the military, whole entire, staff were amazing. The food was amazing. What they did separate us though, women from female, from women and male, and the women's will be with children, I guess. So there will be no issues or I guess no sexual harassment, nothing, because they don't know nothing about you. So it's a protection kind of thing that I guess the military procedures they do. So we were there for 11 days, and then from there we took an airplane to Miami. Okay. So the biggest thing that I remember being in Miami, being on the airplane, is seeing the highways full of cars. You see them like little ants. And I was like, wow, how many cars and how many colors. So that was the first thing that was for me impactful. To see such a big, city. Yeah.
That's a very common answer. The highway here in the United States. Yeah. It's a very common answer that I get from my guests. So, when you guys got to Miami, did you guys have like any, because I know Miami is very heavy with Cuban community. But did you guys have by any chance any like non-immigrants help you when you guys got here or anything like that?
So at that time there was a big, and I think they're still very active, which is La Agencia Católica de Migratoria. So the Catholic took care of that as a nonprofit organizations, and they're the one that were that will place us in different states or different places that they can help those family. As that time we did had we were refugees, they give us all that help. So the whole entire Catholic agency is the one that processed every Cuban back then in 93. Right now, anybody that comes, they're returned back into the island, not as how it used to be in 93 because of the regime. So yeah, it was a whole entire agency that took us to the process. And the first bad news they told us is like, we have to move you guys to New Mexico. There's no space of you guys here in Miami. So that was like a big hurdle for us.
Yes,
I got an accent, so what?
Shout out to her podcast.
Front show. You see, in my show, I can use that as an excuse. I can.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
So, they told us we have to go to New Mexico, and my dad and mom, definitely they didn't want to, because even though we didn't have family, all those people that we travel along, it was friends and everybody that we knew, and they all have family in Miami, so they were staying in Miami. So we had to, within 24 hours, find somebody that would sponsor us, and there was that was another process. Sleeping over in a motel in Biscayne Boulevard in the 90s was very rough. As right now, Biscayne Boulevard in Miami in the 90s, it was heavily with drugs and prostitution. It was super, super heavy. So they left us at that hotel one night, waiting until the next day to hopefully somebody come and rescue us. And that was another miracle moment that we had of healing, that we experiment with God, and my family being so Christian based. And then the following day, God provide that individual that took us out under his wing and give us that second chance.
So you guys were able to stay in Miami? Yes,
we were able to stay in Miami.
Oh, so how was it growing up in Miami?
Miami was like it was like a super modern Cuba on steroid, with food, and a lot of cubaneo. But it was very relatable to us because our culture is so heavy. So I think we're lucky Cubans to have that. I know, fortunately, other immigrants from another part of the world, don't have that community. So Miami, hands down to my community and my Cubans, that we always support each other, and we always have each other's back in one way or the other, So Miami, it's another part of my story that I always said. We stayed in Miami for 6 years, and I didn't even know how to speak English because we didn't need to.
You didn't need to.
We didn't need to. Mm-hmm. So I remember some of the kids that came with us in the Raft. They were same age as me. They moved a little bit northern Miami, and that kid within 6 months knew English, and I was lost.
Yeah.
So I remember I was like hard on Coconut Grove, Miami, and the teachers were talking to me in Spanish.
Yes.
All the classes were in Spanish. That was 5th grade. I didn't have no big gap. Like, you go anywhere, they were talking to you in Spanish. Like, then that 6 years is when we moved to Rochelle, Illinois, which is 2 hours away from Chicago.
Illinois?
Yes.
What a shock. What a culture shock.
And that's when I learned English in 1 year.
Okay, so tell me about the culture shock that you experienced in Illinois, because Illinois and Miami are
two different animals.
Different worlds.
So this was a very tiny city. They only had one Walmart, biggest chain thing there, and one factory. It was a pork factory. That's where my parents started working. In that factory, and there was nowhere that you could spend. Now I understand why they saved like $25,000 that first years, because there was nothing else to do there. But it was a very small town. The only Hispanic people there were Mexican. Okay. Cubans were like, who are those? So there's a couple Cubans that got there, and that's how my parents went to Illinois, know, because in Miami, as you know, is a very, back then in 93 and right now it's still the same, very expensive lifestyle, rent super high. So my parents couldn't afford it. So they're like, let's go to the north. I heard there's better pay, better opportunity. So they went there. Cuban shock for me. I mean, a culture shock for me, because then I became my parents' translator, which it was the worst thing. Imagine, I couldn't barely insecure talking, and then in English, I was a teenager. I was 14. I was like, what the heck? I was the only solution for them, so I had to do it.
Yeah, man, I remember. Having to translate for Puppy all the time.
What did this letter say? Can you go talk to this? Tell him that I said this. Talk to them. So me talking to managers, owners, like a freaking 14-year-old, and you're like, but without noticing, you're just becoming that, solution maker individual. So I have to thank my parents.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Man, yeah, and that definitely exposes us for a lot of things. We're translating documents, important documents, and making doctor's appointments and stuff like that. So how long were you guys in Illinois?
We only last one winter.
I bet.
So I remember getting there in April. Spring was beautiful, a little cool, but we had our jackets. In spring,
Yes.
We must have looked so ridiculous. But we're like, oh, it's not bad. Summer was beautiful. Summer's there because in those northern states, you do see the whole entire
four seasons,
yep. You know, so you saw the summer. Summer was beautiful.
Yeah.
The fall was gorgeous.
The changing colors. Yeah.
Until winter. And you know, Illinois is one of the coldest states because you're close to the main lakes.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they call it the Wind Cities.
Yeah.
Chicago, Illinois. And girl, that's all we lasted.
The lake, what is it? The lake effect snow. Oh, man.
So, yeah. So, lots of tornadoes, too. So, it was something very that out of the sudden, just a tornado can come. And I rather hurricanes all day long.
So, I was raised in Michigan. So, I know.
You know.
I know. Yes. Wow. Okay. So, after Illinois, where did you guys go after that one?
So, after Illinois, my parents did big savings. You know, like I said. There was not much to spend, just food and rent. And rent was so economical. Just to put in perspective, at that time, my parents' rent in Miami, it was probably like $600, $800. Over there was $350, a brand new apartment.
Yep.
So it was a huge saving opportunity for them. And they were both working. They were both hustling. And then I was just taking care of my little brother. You know, I will go to school, wait for him. So I was that second, you know, mom, that second individual that have to make sure that everything was making sense for the family. So then my dad had one of those friends that came to us in a raft, said, hey, Álvaro, there's you know, it's not Miami, but, you know, it's close, it's in Florida and it's Orlando. We can get you some jobs and work in Disney. And my dad goes, listen, actually, we're going to go to Cuba. So we went to Cuba, back to Cuba as a vacation. And then we'll go through Orlando, and if we liked it, I'm like, okay. We did like that, and we went to Cuba, I believe the beginning of January, and we were back to Orlando in April.
Now, hold on. You went back to Cuba.
Yes.
How was that?
I went back to Cuba when I was 14.
Okay.
Teenagers. Haven't seen my family for 6 years, my grandparents, my cousin. It was such an impactful way because now you come as a teenager. Now you come like before you were like the little one. Now you're the 14-year-old, and everybody wants to know about you, and everybody wants a piece of you, and everybody wants to know what you're up to. So it was super cool. You were like the new girl that came back. So it was super fun going and everybody being so as a family. So the food, the family, it was just a good reunion for us. And then it was funny how people still not talked about how we came because there were some individuals that helped us back in the island and they could be in jail. So it was like a big secret.
Yeah.
But we were there for 2 weeks and then we came back to Orlando.
And so, so from Illinois, went on vacation for Cuba for 2 weeks and then Orlando.
Yes.
And now you guys are still here.
And ever since, I told my parents, I'm not moving from here.
Okay.
School, we went close to 6 different middle schools just because they were, and I understand now is because they were trying to find a good, cheaper brand that they can afford. Yeah. So, you know, we would change and move so much. And then Illinois, such a big change. So I remember negotiating with them saying, I'm not moving from here. I want to finish, you know, I want to go to high school and I want to have my 4 years of high school. I want to have friends. Like I had to say goodbye to my friends like in the middle school years. So it was so unstable for me that I asked them to please just let me finish at least high school or something. And they liked it. We love Orlando.
Love Orlando.
Now they live in Texas.
Oh, they live in Texas? Yes. Is your brother still here?
My brother's in here in Florida.
Oh, what? When did they move to Texas?
Well, they moved to Texas. They have moved back and forth from Orlando to Texas like 4 times.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I call them my gypsies.
Aw. And are they liking it now in Texas?
They do like it. Texas is really good for them.
Okay. I want to visit. I haven't been to Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So Orlando, and then you stayed here. So you said, no, putting my foot down. We're not moving.
I'm not moving.
Not moving. And so I want to ask you, you know, everything that you went through, so traumatic, such shapes you, you know, who you are today. And everything, but you know, what does the American dream mean to you?
The American dream is basically, it's whatever you dream, you can make it a reality. So it's definitely like somebody once told me, it's like a white Canva.
Yeah.
Whatever color you want to add to it. And it's up to you. How about you want it? How hard you're willing to work and how willing you are for those opportunities. And consistency and hard work does pay off. It's just you must be willing to go through that process.
Yeah. And do you think that the American dream differs between those who are born here and those who immigrate here?
I think the ones that are born here, the American dream for Americans, you think, is having their house, going to college, having a great career. It's two different ones from immigrant. I think the immigrant it's individuals that already had a comfortable life at some point, and they're leaving their land, their freedom, their comfortability to build something more. So definitely is a different kind of people in the sense of survivorship and warriors, and definitely too different as the American dream, being born here with so much accessibility and so much comfortability. Now, how can you take somebody out of their comfort zone to say, build your American dreams? They'll be like, what are you talking about? Two different lives.
Yeah, that is very true. I like your answer. And have you been back to Cuba since?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've gone back to Cuba probably 5-6 times.
Nice.
Yeah.
You get emotional every time you go back?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. What is one advice you would give to someone who may be thinking of moving to the United States?
The first advice that I give that individual is to definitely do an examination to themselves of going through hardship. If you are an individual that do not like changes, you're going to have a hard time adapting to a new life, adapting to different mindsets and rule regulations. So if you are, how do you say that? Those lonely wolf that just, you want to do your own rule and all that, this is not going to be a good place for you. Actually, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. But if you're willing to work hard, be a good citizen, and show those that might look at you different what you're capable to do, then this is definitely your dream and go for it. But definitely you have to be willing to adapt. To change and survive.
Yep, definitely. Definitely big on adaptability, because it's like it's a new country, new language, new culture, food,
new rules that you have to abide by.
Yeah, you have to abide by, yes. Because aquí hay ley, aquí hay consecuencia. Oh man, that just reminds me of DR. Like just people just, doing what they want. Yes. Yes, they are. So I want to talk about how you got into real estate.
Real estate, as I met my husband, I was 19 years old going to college, and we were both going to two different things. I was studying to be a business administration and accounting, and he was going for journalism.
Oh,
so he had a great opportunity. His brother ran 36 cell phone store. At the time, he actually was the pioneer here in Orlando that brought cell phone industry to Hispanic to Latino.
Okay.
All commercials, sponsorship, everything was in Spanish. So you imagine the amount of Hispanic. He was like the representative here in Orlando. So he owned 36 cell phone store between Orlando and Tampa. So I met this guy. He's from Peru. I like him. And I was like, I need to do something for my parents' right to take me to another state.
Trying to move me again.
So then he was in a rock band for 10 years, and I'm like, by the time it's going to be famous, I'm going to be starving here. So I just strategically go and tell him, listen, you have a great opportunity. Your brother's an entrepreneur. Maybe you should ask him how to get your own cell phone store,
Yeah.
Me so naive and so ballsy. And he said, wow, I didn't think about it. He was a sales agent for his brother, Jerry, which they're our business partner now as well. So I remember I said, I don't know how I was so brave. I'm like, get me into a dinner. And we went to a dinner to him. Mind you, this is an individual that is 13 years older than us. So I was barely 19.
Yeah.
So he must be like almost 30 something, late 30s. And he goes, really, Jeremy, you want a story? And he goes, yeah, I want a story. And he told us all the steps. And within 6 months, Jeremy had his first cell phone store. I married him. And in less than a year, we had 3 cell phone stores. So we had our cell phone store for 3 years running. And then we just got a great opportunity to be bought by a bigger company and competitor. It was at that time was Metro PCS was coming. They came from Miami and they were doing some acquisitions here in Orlando. Yeah. So they bought the majority of all his stores. So it was a great way out. So it was our first sale, and we were 22, 23.
Wow.
And then I remember one of our main store, there was this real estate company, and people will come in and out. And at that time, real estate was super hot. Like everybody was getting into the industry, and they were making so much money because the business was very well. Yeah. So I told them, man, look at these people. They come in whenever they want to. They're all driving Mercedes. They all do this. And look at you and me here working Monday to Saturday, because we had a retail store. Yeah. And retail store, you have to abide by that hour. So I remember our only day off was Sunday. So due to maintaining our stores, we couldn't continue with college. So we dropped off of college. We only did 2 years, and we're like, we have our business. This is what it's going to intake. So, and when we sell the cell phone stores, then we pivoted to mortgage, and then mortgage brought it to real estate.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. So you have had this entrepreneurship spirit. Now I can tell you that I think I'm always being up for challenges. Challenges is something that excites me. Okay. So I was like, I'm a good team player, so I line with people, and I'm a really good pusher. Okay. Right, Lily. I'm a great motivator and all that. So, but sometimes I don't want to do it alone. So I'm a great team player. So I guess just me and my husband compenetrated very well, not only as a business owner, as partner, and in our marriage. And I guess we're just like, hey, we're so young, so much to learn. Let's just go for it. So I guess I was blessed to have such a great partner that had the same mindset as me. Yeah. And God put us definitely together to actually bring out the best out of both of us. That's awesome, because normally you either have that, 2 people who are hustlers, like same goal and everything, and then you have like me and my husband, who's like, I'm the go-getter, and he just like balances me out. You know, he's awesome. Like the cheerleader, right? Like the supporter.
I was never a salesperson, which I hated it. He's a salesperson by nature. You know, he's very salesy. I mean, that's how he got me. 20 years later of marriage, I'm like, you really tricked me now. He's a very persistent and very good salesperson by nature. I wasn't. He created me a salesperson. So I was always afraid and timid in that aspect. No, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not. I think the day that I have my aha moment, it was one time that he told me, so I would do the administration of the whole entire company and corporation. I was good with that, numbers, what we needed to do, what we needed to meet. And one time he told me, Gia, everything in life is sales. Like whenever you want to go to a good restaurant, you sell me the reason why you want to go there. When you want a nice purse, you sell me the reason why you want a purse. So everything in life is sales. You're always selling me all the time. And I was like, I didn't think about that way. It's like, now what you're confusing is like car salesmanship and all that is pushy. But talking to somebody and finding the reason why they need this in their life to change their life, you know what? You're not actually selling. You're selling without not knowing, but you're giving somebody a different perspective. And that kind of shifted my mentality that I was like, if my husband is willing to teach me that, I'm willing to just be that sponge. And all the greatest thing I've learned in sales is being from him.
Nice. Oh, that's so nice. And how long have you guys been in real estate?
We've been in real estate for 17, almost 18 years.
You like it still? Yeah.
Everything is real estate.
Everything is real estate. Oh man, that's awesome. So now I want to talk about your podcast. I got an accent, so what? So she's actually host of a podcast, and you told me off air that this was your first time being a guest.
Yes.
So this is awesome. So how do you feel being a guest, first of all?
I like it, actually. I was telling my producer, I love when people ask me questions.
Yeah.
It's just, you know what it is? It make you think things that you never realize. So it's a lot of analyzation, and to me, it's like a lot of self growth. That a lot of things, there are things are in our mind and our everyday thinking that when you say it out loud into the atmosphere, makes sense. That what makes me feel that I lived or that I went through.
Yeah.
So, thanks my producer. It's been one of the most enjoyable therapy that I've experienced lately.
So, okay. So your podcast is called I Got an Accent, So What? And you've been doing it for a year, right?
Yes.
So who are your guests? Because, I got an accent. So who are your guests? What is your mission with it? And
so I Got an Accent, So What? It's a comical way to actually kind of make fun of myself, right? Oh. So the idea came from an amazing social manager that we hire. She came from California and she will hire here in Orlando. And not even knowing, one time I was expressing to her what a vision that I had, but I never thought it would be a podcast. So she said, I have a proposal for you and I think you'll be great at that. She's the one that came up with a name, and I kid you not, I've never felt so identified in my life, you know, because I always felt that my accent, some people say, it's so sexy, so exotic, so this, but I really truly didn't know they were just making fun of me, or it's a good way to justify me. So I know I have a great personality and I'm a great speaker and a great communicator, but however, that it's my insecurity have always been that I said the wrong thing, the wrong pronunciation. And another defect that I have is that I switch
from English to Spanish.
Words that somebody told me that is because I think faster than I speak faster than what I digest and I think.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? I can't even remember what the phrase was that I said, but I said it in English.
No disparate.
But the way that I said it was how you would say it in Spanish.
Exactly.
So I was like, so I said it in English, but in Spanish. And my husband was like, yeah, that's exactly what you did. So I completely understand. Yeah. Like, because sometimes you'll say something in Spanish, but it's really backwards in English.
Yeah, because of the grammar and the conjugamiento that in English, there's no conjugamiento as it is in Spanish.
Yeah.
So I got an accent. So what it's actually more to empowering women, you know, empowering women to accept ourselves how we are and to, you know, immigrants and people that have a dream and their journey and just to motivate each other and to talk about awareness and subjects and things that sometimes we probably never thought that people can listen. So I am that avenue for those that, you know, bring a voice and amplify their message and their story.
I love that. And because immigrants, we have a very special, unique perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. And where can people listen to your podcast?
Definitely they can listen to I Got an Accent, So What in Spotify, on podcasts, on YouTube, because now we have a version. And definitely they can follow me on Instagram on Gia Gomez, G-E-A Gomez with a C, and they'll see my link tree and they'll follow everything that I do.
I love it. It's a lot. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, Gia, thank you. Thank you for this, for your story. Thank you for sharing. Learn a lot of history.
Thanks.
And thank you for just being you.
No, thank you for this opportunity. And definitely, again, this is another platform for those people that sometimes that they don't have a voice and they need to be heard. So you are an instrument that allows those people to be heard.
Thank you.